All right, people, what is good? This is the VF Cast episode 70. And it's been an interesting week. It's been an interesting week. I want to thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel as of late based on the content that I've been putting out. I've been trying to get back into swing of things and putting more content out because I've been really busy with the other channel, but I'm gonna try to make a balance between the two. So that's basically how it's gonna go. So expect more stuff here. Now, the VF Cast is a podcast that I do pretty much once a month. I do a lot of other videos on this channel pertaining to gaming, but at the end of the month, I try to catch up on things that I was not able to get to, or some things that happened recently that I found out was more in depth than what is actually a quick video that I could do on. So but that will change as well because I'm gonna be doing more stuff here. So it'll probably be a continuation of what's going on. So I want to thank you guys for coming through, supporting. If you don't mind, hit the like button. Help grow this channel. I'm just trying to move the channel up to get for more subscribers and more viewers, so you guys could check out the content. And I'm gonna do my part for making better content and making more content for you guys to listen to. Because I mean, most of the time I'm here anyway, just sitting in front of the computer, just gaming. So I mean, why not? So I'll be in the process of that as well. So I just want to thank you guys. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The three topics we're going to talk about today is, I hope I say this right, Horoki Totoki. He's going to be the interim CEO of PlayStation. He's basically taking Jim Ryan's spot for the moment. Well, I mean, once 2024 comes and Jim Ryan steps down, he's going to be the guy in place. And I'm gonna give you my quick thoughts and opinions about it. Long story short, not much. There are some concerning things I want to talk about, maybe like one or two that I want to get into, and I'll talk about that. Also, I didn't get around to talk about the Microsoft leak. I didn't get to talk about that like this was in the moment when I was like busy on the other channel. So I'm going to talk about that as well. What does that mean, and what are my thoughts about it when it comes to actually purchasing anything from Microsoft? Will I get another console because I have an Xbox One X? I had a Series S, the small S, but I never bought a Series X, but I wanted to. But this kind of changes a lot of things, so I'm gonna look into that as well. And finally, we're gonna talk about Drey Watson. His apology on what he did. He made an apology video post on X, and we're gonna talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, Horoki Totoki, he is I think he's already a high ranking official at Sony. He's the chief financial officer, to president and chief operating officer. So they promoted him to that. So he's gonna be over over PlayStation. And somebody called me. That's gonna be denied. And it's basically, what does that mean? It's I don't really know what this means because I don't know much about him. I do. There's two things about him. He likes to grow whatever he's putting down. Like if he's a part of it, he's obsessed with growth. So he wants a big thing. He wants whatever his hand is in. He wants to grow it. He wants stronger profits. He wants to have a big, a big outlook on whatever project he's over. So if he's going to be over a Sony PlayStation, that's basically what it's going to be. Now with PlayStation don't really have a problem with growing. I mean, they had a really good run ever since the PlayStation 1 has been out. And I mean, you understand, that's been since 1994, and they've done a phenomenal job. Once they got slighted by Nintendo, they made their own console, and the sky was the limit from there. And they've been they've been great, even in the downtimes when most of us gamers think, oh man, games going to PC and stuff going to mobile, and excuse me, I'm so sorry, stuff going to mobile and all these other things that are going into other factions within PlayStation. It's still been a very profitable and lucrative type of situation for them. No, it hasn't been all peaches and cream because Jim Ryan, which I don't really want to talk about Jim Ryan because he's gonna be out the door. He made some gamers mad about the PlayStation 3 store going down and how retro games, how he feel about those. He basically seemed like he's a businessman first, not a gamer. I don't know what this guy, I don't know what Totoki's angle is when it comes to this, but I just know that he's going to want to grow things. I've also heard there's other things that he wants to do as far as mobile gaming. He loves mobile gaming, so that's interesting. I would not be surprised if we see like if if we don't have one already, because I don't follow mobile games. I wouldn't be surprised we have for a Horizon or Uncharted mobile game. I mean, especially if you talk about a guy who wants stronger profits for PlayStation. He's obsessed with growth and he likes mobile games. And that looks like that may be the only thing I can think of when it comes to where they're gonna go once he comes into place. So I don't know. I mean, I have my thoughts and opinions about the gaming industry nowadays in general. I mean, I'm getting older, and when you get older, you kind of look back on things that you've done back then, and it's like, the games back then were like great, and the consoles were great. And I'm not saying that the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or even the Xbox series isn't great. I'm not on Xbox One. I'm not saying that. It's just that I think around the sixth generation, fifth generation, even in some cases in the seventh generation, when you had the PlayStation 3, it was, I don't know, the gaming just felt more practical. It was just simpler. It was more straightforward and easy. Now it's like you got to worry about microtransactions and this loot box, or loot box is not much of a thing anymore, but you know what I mean. You got to worry about if the game is fixed, if the game is that, or what kind of agendas that they're pushing in games nowadays. Who's going to be the leader? It's like it's just so much going into a game where you have to resort back to indie games to actually get that feeling what you had when you were mid 2000s and lower or earlier. And it's kind of it's kind of depressing at times, but at the same time, I do find my way within this generation to find some good games to play. I mean, there's some great ones out there that nobody really talks about, and I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice to only, I think a lot of us, and I know there's a growing side of it on YouTube, but there's a lot of us now that are focused on like all heavy hitters, triple A's. I know there was one person that said that's all they want is straight heavy hitter triple A games, and you see how that's going. I mean, there's now talks that it may be a strike in the gaming industry now. But you only can grow but for so much, especially when you're growing as fast as it is. And when everybody's trying to do the same thing at the same time, you can have a situation where strikes or crashes could happen. And people say, you know what, my choices aren't good enough, I'm not buying. Which I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but you saw what happened with loot boxes and microtransactions. A lot of companies are backing off of that. So you kind of saw somewhat of a drawback of some of those things. You don't see too many companies are trying that now. They are trying to go back to some single player stuff, and even with live services, they're trying to keep you hooked on live service, but they're still trying to focus a little bit more on gameplay than they did before, because at one time it was just you play and you pay, and it's not as strong as it was. So I don't know what this new interim CEO is going to do. I don't know if they're going to keep him on completely, but to me, I'm just shaking my head and shrugging my shoulders. I don't know what the future holds. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. All right, now let's jump over to Microsoft. Microsoft had a leak. We're going to go through some of the leaks. I know this stuff has already been talked about, but I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions, so it will be a different perspective from what most people have probably heard already. I guess it was in it was a court case. Internal documents was leaked, and come to find out, Microsoft leaked it themselves. It was the FTC versus Microsoft trial, and yeah, they leaked their own stuff. I mean, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, it is crazy. Some leaks are intentional. Who's just calling me now? Nope, I'm sorry. Leaks? Some leaks are intentional. Like, I believe the Street Fighter 6 leak was absolutely intentional. They wanted to do that to get people, really excited about the game. There's no doubt in my mind, I believe that. But this was in the middle of a court session, so I don't think this happened. So these are the things that have been released. Microsoft wants to release the new versions of the Xbox Series and X console. You kind of saw that already with the the black Xbox Series S, and that's gonna have a 1 terabyte of storage, and it's gonna be a different color, and I don't have an issue with this. I had an Xbox Series S, and I thought it was a really cool console. I just knew at the end of the day, to me, it felt like it was a Game Pass console, and um, I'm not a big fan of digital only consoles. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of PC, because PC is all digital, and I understand the direction they're going, which I'll talk about in a second. But I just wasn't a fan of this particular console being all digital. To me, it just felt like a emulation box, or it felt like a cheap box that you get off Amazon, and that's one of the things it just didn't sit right with me to play on it. So I mean, I know that may sound kind of weird, but yeah. So also they have an S refresh and an X console refresh, which is all digital as well. And this looks like, I mean, this is something that you would probably expect if they had a X disk drive and an S. I mean, X in a disk drive and an X without a disk drive. It's cylinder. It's like really weird, and I can possibly see myself getting something like this, unlike the other one. I probably won't, but I could see myself getting this because this is a much more powerful console. The Xbox Series S, I'm sorry, the Xbox Series X does do 4K, and it does do high performance on a lot of games. So it does feel like my gaming PC. So I'll be more lined up to go buy one of these before I did that. But I don't know. I mean, I have some Xbox games that I want to use that's in my that are disc based. I do have an Xbox Series X. I'm sorry, I do have an Xbox One X, and to be honest with you, this console is actually really good. I think the problem with the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, those two consoles were never ever able to max out their potential because it was a mid refresh, and usually with consoles you will see how far they can go before the next one comes out. I mean, you kind of saw, like, especially like in the NES days, if you looked at any game that came out on the NES like past 92 or even 91 when the Super Nintendo was out, there were some really good looking games on the NES. When you look at like the Super Nintendo, like at the end of that cycle when the N64 was coming out, you saw games like Star Fox 2 and the Donkey Kong Country series, Killer Instinct, and 95, 96, those games were like, they look really good for the console. And then when you look at like I said, the Genesis has that issue, the Saturn has that issue. The Dreamcast, I think the Dreamcast just looked beautiful from day one. I mean, I don't know if they ever tried to push the limits of that. PlayStation 1, at the end of that life cycle, you saw some great looking 2D games, just like the Saturn. The PS2, you saw that as well. How great some of those games came out, the ones that came out in 2006. PS3, look at the Uncharted series, Last of Us, even MotorStorm. They had a lot of games that look, Gran Turismo 6, games look damn near PS4 like at the end of the cycle. Now the performance was kind of shaky, but yeah. But when it comes to the PS4 Pro and Xbox Series, I don't think they will ever be able to max out their potentials. I mean, maybe the Xbox, because the Xbox still they still kind of cater to the Xbox One X, but I think they stopped discontinuing, they discontinued production of that console. So you might be out of luck, because I believe if some, developers actually got their hands on an Xbox One X, you could probably get some 4K 60 games on it if it had like a 6-7 year life cycle, because of the power that's behind it just wasn't touched. It's kind of depressing, to be honest. So they have a new controller. If you're looking at the screen, you see that. I don't have to say much about that. It's a new controller. It has precision haptic feedback. Welcome to the club. PS5 already had that, so that's cool. 2028 is supposed to be a new year for a console, so that sounds about right, because I think the PS4, the PS5 came out in 2021. It's like a 2020. I can't remember. It's one of the two. It's like a 7-year gap. That sounds about right. They, consoles usually have those type of life cycles between 7 to 8 years. I mean, unless you like the Neo Geo or the PS2, you have like 10, 12 years. It's kind of weird, but But you know what I mean? It's like that 7 years about right. And finally, they had their sights on Nintendo and Valve. I'm not surprised at this. Can they buy one of the two? Um, if all parties did agree, I think they would be able to. I think they'll be able to afford it. Microsoft has a lot of money. I would not like to see them take over Valve. Shut up, Siri. And I think with Nintendo, I kind of like Nintendo where they are. I mean, you kind of got a sense of how Microsoft would be if they did take over Nintendo with the Rare stuff, like the Rare Replay. You kind of saw how that is. You see how Banjo Kazooie is. You see Perfect Dark. You see where GoldenEye is right now. So you kind of got somewhat an idea of that. But I don't want them to touch Valve at all because their Microsoft Store is, oh my God. I mean, it's better, but no. Steam is good where they are. Let them stay. But Spencer he noted, and I'm gonna put what I see in this article real quick. He said he didn't see that a mutually agreeable merger for the two companies, and he didn't believe that a hostile action would be a good move. So we're playing the long game. So that's interesting. Maybe I'll say next 20, maybe 20 years, they could possibly take Nintendo. I don't see it, but it's possible. I don't know where Nintendo will be in 2040. Where will they be? I mean, will they be able to keep up with what the world is going through with technology? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like what the Switch has done, but I think the Switch is more of a compromise when it comes to technology, between technology and fandom. It's very convenient for a fan or a gamer to play on a Switch. And I'm not knocking it. I mean, I love the Switch. I have two of them. But I just think that down the road, how sustainable that will be. Would that be sustainable enough for Nintendo to say, all right, we're good? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I think their IPs are classics and they're forever. But then again, you got to get people to want to continue to be on mobile games. Because I will be extremely surprised if Nintendo go back and be a true to life home console. And with the technology that Microsoft has, it would be kind of interesting for Nintendo to at least have a look. But when it comes to Valve, no, none of that. I'm good. So yeah. So that's pretty interesting. That last part is actually pretty interesting. Something to think about. Last but not least, I'm not reading all of this. I'm not reading all of this when it comes to Drey Watson. I'm not, if that's his name. That's why I put it in the title with quotations. Listen, I did talk about this earlier. A while back. This was like back in 2021. He will start. He DM'd me for money a while back, and I wasn't thinking of nothing of it because of the fact that I always kept money aside. I said this in my video. I always kept money aside for people like my coworkers or whatever. If they were struggling or whatever, I would put money aside for them. If they, or not just aside for them, but just aside, just in case if somebody wanted something to eat at work, or I mean, this goes back to my days when I was in law enforcement, because it happens, and guys work long shifts in law enforcement, and they are they just don't have sometimes. So I would put up at least $10 just to the side, just in case. So it was nothing of it. And this was like back in 2021. I didn't think nothing of it. And I think it was like maybe 6 months, 8 months later, he asked again. I'm like, all right, cool. It wasn't like a thing like some of these people are, said that he went back to them like day after day after day, every 3-4 days. I'm like, nah, fam. Every now and then, it is what it is, because I've been there. I mean, I told you my story that, I was sleeping on the floor of my house, and I didn't have nothing to eat. I had to borrow someone's bike to get to work. So I've struggled, but I picked myself up. I mean, me and my wife, before she was my wife, she told me straight up I needed to do something about my situation, and we worked at it. And on top of that, there were times when we didn't even have a car, and right here in Atlanta, I had to take the MARTA to get to wherever I had to go, and sometimes I had to take the MARTA in the middle of the night just to get to work on time. So I've been there. So I just don't, I couldn't sleep with myself knowing somebody was going without and knowing I could have done something about it. So, me personally, that was my contribution to his situation. But I don't feel I don't necessarily feel I was duped like everybody else because it was such a it was such a long gap between the times he asked. I wasn't even, really thinking about it. But other people, I mean, they gave up 200, 300, 400. Somebody went up to over $1,000. And this dude's apology, I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I just don't. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do to pay these people back. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, he needs to pay them back, but I don't know how he's going to do it because if you look at his tweet and look at all the things he bought with these people money, it was more like he did not even try to sustain himself. He basically ate Whataburger and bought PlayStation games throughout this entire time of going for people's pockets. It's actually pretty gross, like I said, I have a soft heart for anybody who's who's down and out, and some people may not understand that because they may never been there. But once you've been there and you've seen it, and then you see somebody else go through it, or you hear about somebody else go through it, you want to do something about it. Now, the thing about this guy Drey, I've heard his name's supposed to be it's like Andre. It's a different name similar to Drey, and his last name's supposed to be starts with a C, so it's not like this is his name. But this persona, I've known him for about 5 years now. He's been on Twitter for at least 4 to 5 years, so I've known him for a while. So it was another reason why, okay, I see him posting this, that, and the third. And I understand people, I get it. People are like, yo, don't trust people on the internet like that. And I don't. But after I've talked to him on the phone, I actually, communicated with him outside of social media. I was more like, okay, if he's going through something, I got him. Now, I ain't got him for a huge sum of money, but I got him if he need a little bit of something. But you can't take people, kindness for weakness, bro. And this is what you did. I mean, you literally took advantage of people, and the people who constantly gave you money day after day after day. And like I said, sometimes 3 to 4 days at a time, they will constantly throw you money to the point where they're giving up 200, 300, 120, 75, $1,200. It's like, yo, at some point you gotta feel kind of bad. Like, damn, I'm just really getting all these folks. I don't know, man. I just find that extremely, extremely scummy, man. And I don't know. As for me, I haven't blocked them on Twitter yet, which I probably need to. I blocked them from PSN. The number that I had, I got rid of the number, which that number keeps calling me back as somebody named Alejandro, but that's a whole different story for the past 2 days. Because the day after this happened, I called him and they didn't pick up. And later on that day, they called me, but it sounded like him, but they said there was a different name. I think it said like Alejandro or Alex or something like, I can't remember. I know it sounded like a Hispanic name. And they called me again today asking me who am I? And I'm like, yo, who is this? And they didn't say that, they just ended up hanging up. So I blocked the number. I don't know who that is at this point. I've heard that there's a situation where he has 2 separate numbers now, 2 different iPhones. Dude's been finessing everybody. Like I said, I'm glad that, I'm glad that it was a thing back then when he came to me like 2 separate occasions within, 4 to 6 months time span. So to me, I don't feel like I was finessed. Because like I said, I always put something aside for somebody who's down and out because you never know where your blessings may come from. And I don't feel bad either. And I'm not going to tell other people not to feel bad because some people gave up a lot of money. And I just don't know how to feel about that. I would be pissed. I would be extremely pissed if that was me. I mean, Drey, Watson, whoever you are, man, I hope you fix this, right these wrongs. I don't want my money back. I mean, I gave you what, $40, $30 or something. It was somewhere around that. I'm good. I'm straight. So you don't even have to contact me. We're good. I don't mind following you on Twitter or whatever case may be because I'm here for the BS. If you want to unfollow me, that's fine. But I'm not really big on blocking people in general. But I had to do it on PSN because PSN is a little bit more sensitive than social media in my opinion. So I mean I don't want you to be, trying to do something funny on PSN and we already know how Sony their security is. I mean, I just did a video about that. So I think I said enough. I wish Drey the best. Hopefully Microsoft could, recover from these leaks. And it's gonna be interesting what Sony's gonna do with their gaming division since they're gonna have a new CEO. It's gonna be really interesting. So I think I said enough. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this commentary, if you like this podcast, please hit the like button. Share this podcast. Let people know what we're doing over here. I will definitely be putting some gameplay up. I did earlier this week. I will be doing more. Hopefully you guys will check it out because I'm a big fan of gaming. My other channel, man, it just pulls me in another direction, and the link to that channel will be down in the description. It doesn't have nothing to do with gaming per se, so hopefully you guys will check that out as well. I really would appreciate it. I'm gonna get up out of here. All right, y'all take it easy, and y'all have a good weekend. All right, y'all. Peace.